Now, you look at the movie network, I can see where there was this plan or so forth, and I don't know if it prepared us or if it was mocking us. I mean, when you were mentioning that about mocking and I was like, oh boy, does that sound like it. Now, what about the movie The Matrix? When I saw that, I literally, my jaw dropped because it contained, I thought, the truth, the way to get out of this whole Matrix. And in that movie, in the fictional setting, it made the, quote, Matrix so amazingly deceitful. I mean, we're all plugged into machines, and it may not be that graphic in reality, but it's the same principle. Do you think that's mocking us as well? Or, I don't know.
Well, what's interesting with the Matrix is that in a sense they're showing you in allegorical form the system as it is.
Yeah.
Because under economics, we are batteries, we're energy units, we produce. And that's what they were energy units. When you look at the name of Neo, it's Neo Anderson, which means Neo means new, and Andra comes from the Greek Andrew for man. So he's a new son of man, Anderson. He's a new Messiah. That's what it meant. And also, their underground base was called Sion. And Sion, in the mysteries, even in the Knights Templar, going even further back to ancient Egypt and the Middle East, Sion always meant, it didn't mean what people think it does today. The real meaning of Sion is a combination of two words, which is typical of even the ancient and modern mysteries. Psi is the first two letters for the moon. In Aramaic, it's Sin. Sin is the moon. And so when they wander in the wilderness of sin, they're wandering in the dark. That's what it means. On is the place in Egypt. On is also the phallic symbol of the obelisk, and that's where most of them are constructed in what the Greeks called Heliopolis, but the Egyptians called On. So Sion is a male and female combined. That's what it means. So that movie portrayed a lot of stuff that's missed by the general public. They don't really understand it.
Now, I didn't see the second one. My daughter did, and it got a lot into where you're alluding to at that moment. And I don't know if I'm going to have to watch the first one again to look for these little nuances. But I don't know. Am I a dreamer that I'm looking for a situation to have either these leaders fail or the people rise to their intended occasion, the creative, our own creation, the ability to create our future and not be manipulated? I don't know. Am I just like dreaming? Am I the one that's sleeping?
Not really. What you're looking for, I'm sure, is the spark within us to reclaim, as I say, that it's almost sacredness that humans should have, that bit within them, that life in them. It also, as you know, means a reevaluation of our purpose here. We're not serving our purpose here under this particular system. We certainly won't be under the next one. It's truly up to us to reclaim our rights, And we cannot, here's the thing too, all the groups that have been put up in the past were put up by the other side. They expect opposition, so they give you the leaders for oppositions. And that's how they've always managed to steer us back into their agenda, even further along the road than they were before. I tell people, don't join huge organizations because you're being misled. You got to start small and demand your rights. You got to stand up for your rights because it's up to you to reclaim them. Nobody else will do it for you. No one else will. And that's if you think they're important. A lot of people, like Rockefeller said, will blindly obey and deliver themselves docilely into our hands. He said that in one of his speeches, And the big philanthropic organizations sprung up in the days of Adam Weishaupt, and John Robison, who was an English Mason, wrote about them. He joined the Illuminati at that time, and he came out against it and said, under the guise of philanthropy, which is like the Rockefeller Foundation. They fund the organizations which will change society along the path they want. And so that's why they fund all the wildlife organizations. If you'll notice that the Earth Charter that was put forth by Maurice Strong, the plants and the animals have more rights than humans now. And this is done under a philanthropic organization funded by the Rockefeller Foundation. The foundations, the great foundations, are the means by which they get us to go in the direction they want.
Right, we have a phone call here. Let's see if we can get this in here. Hello, you're live on the air, Feed the Fire with Alan Watt.
Yeah, how you doing?
Good.
All this information is rather, I think it's paralyzing to the average individual, and I was thinking maybe there's something you could say to give someone a little hope or a little inspiration that all's not, oh, it's impossible, it's, that you can't fight City Hall type message, or there's nothing we can do, it's too overwhelming. Where I think that if people do the right, they do stand for what's right and do the right thing, there are external forces that will come to their aid if they do the right things for the right reasons. These creatures that wish to control everything are not all powerful, and they may seem to be in control, but there is a heavenly host that watches over us when we do the right things for the right reasons. We'll get the help we need. I believe that.
All right, it's a good point. Hold on. Just stay there and listen for a minute. So what about God and helping us, or angels or aliens or some benign force outside that has power over? Mm-hmm.
Well, they're always looking for the cavalry to come and do it for us. That's the problem with that's how we got where we are. And again, that's part of the difficulty I was mentioning earlier about groups and organizations. They will see things from a particular trained point of view, and that's why they can't come together. That's why society is divided. Now, it's true, the elite cannot do anything in their agenda without our cooperation. All the wars they've created to bring about their final goal, we breed the offspring, which ends up putting on the uniforms and goes out and does their killing for them. You see, we don't even communicate with our children and give them the proper values. The state has taken over and given them their cultural and their value system, and the media has done the rest, and much music and so on. That again was explained by Bertrand Russell, one of the main workers in this field. So we are breeding the killers, and I knew this 20 years ago when I noticed all the movies began to change. There's always a guy in the front of every video with a big gun and a blonde hanging over him. And then out came all the video games, and I said, and the only reason for these video games coming out, which were at one time were used to train the military to get over their fear of killing. It was to make them kill without any reaction whatsoever. These were used by the military for years, these same video games.
Well, what about the spirituality, like the caller?
The spirituality, yeah. Here's the thing with spirituality. What makes the average person think that they're supposed to sit back and something happens for them? There's a price to pay in this world. This is the place where spirit and matter combine.
Oh yes, I think you are talking about taking action and having somebody from the other side help out, right?
We have to make the first move. We have to stand for what's right and what we believe in, and let the chips fall where they may. They can kill the bodies we dwell in, but they can't touch our souls unless we allow it, unless we give in to it. But if we stand for what we believe in and for what's right, then we'll be far better off than cowing down and going along to get along.
All right, well, we have to cut for a break here, and I want to thank the caller for calling in. And, we'll keep the phone lines open as we come back and talk with Alan Watt. And maybe we can come back, Alan. We can just start off where we left off here about this spiritual inner power in it. So
it's a good point there, yeah.
All right, everybody hold on. We'll be back. Take a break and continue with Alan Watt CuttingThroughTheMatrix.com is the website, and we will return with 2 Feet to Fire, IPS Media Works presentation. This is an independent organization looking for truth. What a novel concept. We'll see how far this can go throughout this matrix. We'll be right back.
You are listening to Feet to the Fire. Você está escutando ao Feet to the Fire.
Bienvenue, vous écoutez Feet to the Fire. You are listening to Feet to the Fire.
With the Black Knight.
All right, we are back, and we have Alan Watts. We're going to give him a ring. The phone lines are open, 888-863-2722. Great questions. CuttingThroughTheMatrix.com.
Hello.
And welcome back, Alan Watts, live to the show. You're not advocating, I just want to, as I hear what you're saying, you're advocating, trying or taking some action, and that it looks bad, it looks over, but it's not for sure done, as opposed to kind of just packing it in, right?
Oh, sure. It's not over yet, and this is the critical phase, though. It's a critical phase because people have to speak out about what's happening. We know that once the Middle East agenda is over and done with, they're going to declare world government. That's the next phase. And then you're really under a massive bureaucracy of the UN. Leading, as I say, to a system where we're more like robots than actual people. We're numbers and figures, and we will serve the world state. This is an old agenda, but it's not over. It's not over yet. It does need our cooperation, and at the moment, most people are cooperating by going along with it and keeping their heads down, and they're afraid to speak out. We can't be silent anymore, because this isn't just us, you see, that we're talking about. This is the future. Everyone who can be born in the future has the same right to sentient thought and experience of life as we have.
Now, how does the spirituality fit into this? I mean, is there some higher power force that would help our individual growth and enlightenment, or is all forms, whether it be New Age or Old Age, all forms of the spirituality merely a training and control, from your perspective?
We definitely know that religion has always been used for control. It doesn't mean that it's all totally fake, because they need to take some truths and then take it over. We can't swallow the bait without the truth. And this has been done forever, since the days of Sumer and probably before. They've always given us a theocracy type of system where it's really for us to serve the state and to have a form of order within this state where we serve it well and quietly under the fear of something. Now, everyone who's born has a craving to get in touch with something beyond themselves, but they just know instinctively it exists. And it comes on strongly sometimes, and sometimes you go through valleys where nothing happens. And that supposedly was always your connection with this creator. However, since we do wake up every day as ourselves in the same place, then the place of importance right now is right here. As long as the spirit is embodied in matter, it has a function. And that, of course, is what it is. It's for the spirit to start to alter the physical world we live in. And that's where our values, that's where our compassion comes from. We have to have empathy for all peoples. And look how since Vietnam, in fact, when you started the days of TV dinners and you sat down and watched Vietnam and people getting blown up and all that kind of thing, look how desensitized we've become, where we sit and watch the Middle East going through the same thing, and it's almost like standard fare, and we're being totally desensitized and on purpose until we have no connection with those people who've been blown up all over the place. When we lose our empathy for other people, we're actually losing it for ourselves at the same time and our neighbors.
It's a good point, because people mentioned about, like, in Fallujah. I did a show on Fallujah about a video that came out. I received, no help from the general listenership, and most people thought I was a traitor of some type. And I just wanted to find out if the video was true. See, I don't give our government or any government the benefit of the doubt when it comes to these things. But when I sought to look into these things, you seem to hit this area inside where, those people over there can do that. But, when someone's getting blown apart, that's not a good thing. I don't care who they are. Enemies or not. I wonder if, I'm kind of a rhetorical question, that these enemies are being bred for us, this whole idea is being planned for us so that we can somehow justify what they want to do.
Well, they always demonize the enemy. In World War I, it was the Huns, and H.G. Wells coined that term. Somebody put that term out there, the Huns. Dehumanized them, and of course we saw the same thing with Saddam Hussein going into reclaim some of the old Persian territory that was taken off them, actually, when Britain drew up the maps after World War I. And they said that they were going in and bayoneting babies in the hospitals, so you demonize the enemy. It was all bogus. During World War II, it was the NIPs, they were short-sighted and buck-toothed, and you dehumanized them, so it's easier to kill them. And now the military call them ragheads, the people who live in the Middle East. And sure enough, there's been enough exposure showing that the military is going in there now and just gunning down whole families in their homes. And those same soldiers are going to come back and eventually wear policemen's uniforms, because over 90% of them end up in the police forces. So you better realize that they're being desensitized too to what they're doing and where this is all leading. We must always have empathy for people of all nations, whether they're starving or being brutalized by anybody, because eventually, if we don't, it's our turn one day. And no one will cry for us if we can't cry for others.
Well, we've seen it over and over again when Germany walked across Europe, until it got to, it was, the Jews, that's all right. Well, the Polish, wait, in France? Britain? Wait a minute. That's when people started to say, wait a minute. And I think it's true. I think that you got a good point there. We do have you wanted to comment on that? Okay, we I don't know if you wanted to respond to that. We do have a question that came in. It's kind of a mouthful, so I'll just read it as it is. Please ask Alan if he could expand on the following. Godhood and the esoteric religion and the connection between culture creation, egocentric beings, and the abusive mindset.
Culture creation, it's always been used for culture creation. And whatever they say the gods do is what the public eventually emulate. Including the festival days, is emulating the gods, supposedly. So it's always been used for culture creation. When they want an agricultural system, a feudal-type system, they give you a universal-type church, which is very, very, very strict, in a sense. When they want an industrial era, they create sects like the Protestant sects and the work ethic for that particular era. So it's always been used for culture creation, and updating as they update the culture. And even, it's amazing, for the last 100 years, they really started to push this Revelations thing in religion. And the Revelations wasn't in the original writings on the Bible. It was taken out a couple of times after it was put in as well, down through the many, many centuries. And it's to condition the public to accept it, that it's inevitable, and nothing is inevitable. We're here for a purpose. It's not fate. It's not pre-planned. It's up to us to create our own destiny, and so we must fight against our own indoctrination. Many Christians really think that if you speak out against the evil that's going on, you're fighting God because it's God's plan. That's beautiful mind control for the elite.
Wow, no, yeah. I think the way this country was founded, a lot of the principles would actually prevent things from taking over. But was this country being America, was this country literally founded with this whole plan laid down from the beginning?
Yes, it was. It was. I mean, they had meetings in Europe in the early 1700s with the elite, and they wondered how they were going to control the future. And they knew they couldn't take over a world without tremendous opposition if they used England, because England had gone all over the planet plundering, basically, for a small group in London. They couldn't use France or the other countries because they'd all been empire builders. So they had to create a new knight in shining armor. And the United States was the first openly Masonically created country to be born since the days of Sumer, basically. All of its emblems, its symbology is high occultic. It's not Christian. And there's Washington's monument. What do you think that is? Where do you find that in the Bible? You know, it's an Egyptian, a brand new one for raising a man to godhood. That's what that stands for. You raise a person to godhood, and they're given an obelisk. He's the first one to be given a huge obelisk from the days of Alexander the Great.
No, I come back from my beginning. I had arguments with people about this, quote, Christian country, and there was a great book, which I wasn't prepared for it, I'd have it out, that went through painstakingly documents that were written by these founding fathers that would no way make it a, quote, Christian country, and yet I think the goal is that my way is the right way, and my view of America is what it should be, and this is what it was, and they go and find out things to support where they're at. And of course, all it does is, of course, have discord and strife, which is all good for the monster that's controlling things.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Again, what that other person, that caller, mentioned egocentricity. And from Pavlov onwards, they experimented with the egocentric part of the brain. They knew that people will avoid pain if possible and always seek pleasure. So if they stimulate one thing all the time, pleasure, the pleasure principle, we will avoid all pain. And it's interesting, that's used in the New Age movement, where they're actually taught not to look at the negatives. In fact, to totally ignore the negatives that are happening around them, which is a beautiful way to blind them and allow all this to happen. So egocentric behavior has been encouraged to our detriment, actually. And we're now left almost unguarded. That's what that really meant, egocentricity. You know?
Now, where do people come from who actually seek the benefit of individuals, even at their own loss? Like, you help out a friend, you may end up losing a little bit, but you really care about them advancing and all that. Where do those people come from if they've grown up in this world of indoctrination? How do they get over it? Is it luck? I mean, is it an inner spirit? How does that work out where some people don't end up going down that path?
I think what it is our whole life is a matter of going through different choices every day. We always go through so many choices. We don't realize we're creating a destiny, you might say, for ourselves, and maybe even locking ourselves into a particular path by doing so. And I think as we grow, life is supposed to be a growing experience, an ever-learning experience right through, and a preparation, as you might say, for something to come. I think under the system we live in, which is based on materialism, that like egocentricity has been pushed to the top, and so we amuse ourselves consistently with material things, always paying through the nose for them, or at least paying on credit, and avoiding the spiritual side of humanity. We're losing touch with that altogether. And the spiritual side of humanity is what connects you with other people, where you do feel the empathy. You can see the tribulations people go through, and this is what binds people together and brought out the beauty that is within us, not the monster of materialism that always rears its head. It's the beauty of the connectiveness that we all share on a daily basis. We must get that back or we'll lose everything. And it's not just for those who live now, as I say. It's for all those who've gone before. It's for all those who have the right to life to come and live a life and be a sentient, thinking being full of the joys that can come your way through understanding or listening to a nice song or reading poetry or whatever. But they have the right to provide those experiences. No one has the right to turn us into robots.
Well, I agree. And what I did, for example, when I have had guests on about this 9/11 tragedy, that it was actually not only a cover-up, but there was inside information, insiders acting, and that the actual collapse of the towers could not possibly have happened from the planes. Now, once I saw that information, I had to accept the truth. I mean, there's physics involved here. And so I talked to some coworkers who literally laughed at first. But when I kept sticking to the facts, the physics, the temperature, the fact that there's no way that the fuel could have gotten to the point to melt that steel, which is certified so high, and I kept bringing it up, they ended up wanting to see the videos that I suggested. And it seemed to me that if we just keep hounding with the truth, there's going to be some people who are going to wake up because that truth does something inside of us.
Yes, it does. Eventually it builds up to such a pitch you can't ignore it altogether. It's got to eventually hit you that you can't deny it anymore. And that's the breaking point, because when you can't deny it and you open Pandora's box, you can't close it again. You've got to go on learning from there, in a hurry too. And that's what people are afraid of. They don't really want to upset the media versions they've been given, this media reality they're given. They are afraid, although they suspect there's something else going on, they're afraid to open Pandora's box because they'll have to change their opinions about so much in their own lives. That scares them. Yeah.
And that's where that vision from Matrix, where taking the pill, what color pill, you go back to Alice in Wonderland, or the other ones, you wake up and you can't turn back. We have a question coming in about, we mentioned alien a little bit earlier. Is it possible that these secret societies actually have a connection to some alien entities, i.e. these reptilians or Anunnaki or what have you, that are really the people behind some of this stuff?
No, the Anunnaki thing was thrown out there years ago, and that's how you create myths. You put out a foundation, and the High Masons are very good at this. They lay a foundation, and they bring out other authors to build on the foundation. The Anunnaki really, and the old legends, were supposed to be spirits of the earth. There was nothing to do with aliens whatsoever. You can only bring out alien theology in a space age when you have aircraft and rockets and so on. It would have made no sense 100 years ago. So they always update their theories to suit your scientific period and mislead you again. However, and all the high degrees of Masonry, at least the ones I've spoken to separately, they've all told me about the same initiation rites. And that there is a particular degree that they go through where they claim that they purposely and knowingly bring into themselves a spiritual entity, which gives them a trade-off of longevity, but it also allows the entity to take them over more and more. Hell to an entity, supposedly, is absence of the physical world and all sensation. So heaven to an entity is right here.
And
that's an interesting concept.
Yeah, well, it makes sense. And I could see where, with the space age, you're bringing the aliens, and that in the past they talked about angels or spirits. But it's also possible that in the past, not having the space age, that how you would describe an alien would be an angel or a spirit or what have you. And allegedly, or supposedly, carvings, I've seen them, I don't know how the dating process is, that has spaceships, if you will, going back into the carvings in Egypt and so forth.
No, that they're not at all. In fact, the one that's typically used is the circle with the wings on it, and that's not a flying saucer at all. That was always the Egyptian symbol for the soul transcending back to heaven. And of course, the big boys again gave us all this nonsense stuff and made sure the big authors were well funded. That's another thing too. The Rothschilds were one of the first ones to set up a philanthropic organization to promote certain science fiction type books for predictive programming purposes to do with space travel, etc. And that's never stopped today. We know that Eric von Daniken, that was pushed out in the 60s, late 60s, early 70s, well funded again, and who sold the Chariots of the Gods and a whole bunch of books and started all this alien inscriptions on aliens on motorbikes, space motorbikes and stuff. One British enterprising investigator went over to Mexico and found the guy who was making these carvings for him. So they're very good at giving us myths to mislead us. However, I wouldn't dismiss the fact that all down through the ages, whether they're little men in black outfits or demons or whatever, have been seen by people on certain occasions. It's very possible to project any image into the mind. And today, here's the kicker too, we're living in an age where science is so far advanced in reality, we are on the bottom matrix of reality. Nick Begich, who has a book out called Earth Rising, was on national television in Canada showing us little handheld remote type size machines that the CIA were using in the 1950s, which could put thoughts right into your head by line of sight. And he demonstrated it on the Wendy Mesley show.
I would absolutely love to see that video.
Yes, and I got it. And what's really amazing is he said that all this stuff is obsolete. The CIA had this in the 50s. Now, this is before the transistor was even known to the public, or microcircuitry. And so today, seeing is not always believing. We have that to contend with too. What is scientific? What is real? Now, it's interesting that Madame Blavatsky, that was put out there to promote theosophy, which was to blend Christianity with Hinduism for a united world, where they would bring in many from India into England this century, and in the 20th century. They brought her out in the 19th century to push theosophy, to make Hinduism popular. And she said the function of theosophy was eventually to bind the human spirit with science. And that's exactly where the chip and all this is heading. Is combining you as a total person with science, but it's going to bind you into a form of slavery.
Where does the 2112 and the Mayan calendar all fit into this?
I'm not really following that thing. See, the Maya, again, whatever's promoted heavily is predictive programming again. Now, if we go back to the free trade agreement, the pre-NAFTA deal that set up the unification of the Americas, and that was talked about by the senior civil servant who left Ottawa, Canada. She did all the books up. She drafted all the books up for the NAFTA negotiations. Her name was Shelley Ann Clark. And she came out and tried to get it public. She said, with the merge by the year 2005. Now, in 2005, sure enough, Bush, Paul Martin and Fox signed the United Americas Agreement in Waco, Texas, 27th of March, 2005. And Shelley also said that by 2010, it would be up and running for unification. I think 2012 was for the world government to openly declare itself as world government. And that's the real reason behind this 2012 stuff.
And so really the Mayan calendar is simply a calendar, and that it was utilized in a more of a as a tool to try and give some explanation for a change that's coming.
Well, here's the thing. Now, Arthur C. Clarke was a very high Freemason. who worked on behalf of the big boys, the establishment. And he was given the honor of writing the book 2001. And he wrote that in the 1960s. And the movies came out too. Now in 2001, the story takes them into space travel on the way to Jupiter. And through the travel, the space journey, there's an occultic Masonic ritual goes on. The whole story is about ritualism, even though it's set in outer space, where he must overcome Hal, which is the sun, which is the computer on board the spaceship, which is taken over. It kills off 2 of the other members. It tries to kill off the 3rd one. He beats it and actually disables it. Hal, H-A-L, in typical coding in Masonry, if you take the letter after it, you have I, then you have B, and then you have M, I-B-M, the computer, you see. This stuff is shown right in front of your face. The next movie they did was 2010, and that was also made into a movie.
Right.
Back in the... And that shows you that something wonderful is supposed to happen when they bring forth a new sun in the sky. And in high occultic meaning, that means as above, so below. A new type of creature will be introduced on Earth. And it could be a clone for all we know. A new type.
What do you think about, we only got a couple of minutes, I should say. I'll get lost, and I want to be able you to give information people can... get a hold of you or your products or books, or I know your website is cuttingthroughthematrix.com, but any other way that you might direct people to you?
Yes, they can write to me. It's Site 41, Box 4, Estaire, E-S-T-A-I-R-E, Ontario, Canada. And the postal code is P for Peter, 3, E for Elizabeth, 4, N for Nora, 1. And I'll be pleased to answer them if I get around to it.
Well, in closing, maybe we can take an example. I've had Michael Sarian on here, who's an astrologer, but also talks about fighting the evil of the people there. How would something like that fit into your view?
Fighting the evil?
Yeah, I mean... there is while being an astrologer, which would fall into kind of the category of this occultic stuff, there is still a personal freedom that he has sought for people to fight out of. And I was just wondering, we only got about a minute, if you see that... Go ahead.
Yeah, astrology has always been used as, again, a form of predictive programming. It's written in the stars, so this is how it's fixed. It's a form of control as far as I see. I think that the individual can certainly ask for the power and the courage to get through this life and to alter it for the best as much as possible. And we don't have to consult the stars or spiritualism to do it. We have the spirit within us if we just want to look.
All right, well, we're at the end, and I want to thank you for taking the time, Alan, to share your insights and wisdom, and thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure.
Okay, Alan Watt, cuttingthroughthematrix.com. We're right up against the wall in the end. I want to thank you for listening. We'll be back next week, Feet to the Fire.